Hello you guys and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Rosie and I am a UK midwife. One of the things that I was most excited about becoming a student midwife and what I was going to do throughout my 3 years was the opportunity to do an international elective placement. And it's something that I've shared on my blog in the past, but I thought as I'm doing some more video content, I wanted to share the incredible experience that I had when I went to Tanzania in Africa and worked as a student midwife for 2 weeks. So before I dive into the video, please click on that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. I've got loads of videos planned for the next few weeks and you really don't want to miss them, so please click subscribe. An elective placement is where you get to choose where you work as a student midwife for a period of a couple of weeks. Each university seems to have a slightly different time period, but most seem to be 2 or 3 weeks, some are 4. Essentially, you choose where you want to work. For me, I knew I wanted to do some international work. Having travelled in Africa before, I knew that I probably wanted to go to Africa for my elective. I think that I wanted to experience midwifery care without all the tech and the gadgets and the resources that we have and see how it works in that kind of environment. When it came to actually organising the trip, I knew that if I was going to go to Africa, I wanted it to be safe. And that's the predominant reason why I chose to go with Work the World. The setup of the accommodation was brilliant and we actually had 24-hour security guards, locked gates. It was very secure, so I'm really glad that I did that. Timing wise, I applied just over a year before I was due to go. We were due to go at the end of 2nd year. And I applied initially. You fill out a form on Work the World's website just saying what stage of your training you're at and things like that. Really like on the surface information. And I filled that out on the 20th of May 2017. Then on the 14th of July, I actually booked my trip. I'd changed my dates slightly. I'd called them and asked loads of questions, which they were fine about. And after you book, you get access to the Work the World portal, which has got loads of information. You can put in placement preferences, you can put in your food allergies, anything specific about your placement that you want to organise, you put into the portal. They also have some information about getting extra insurance, which was really useful. The elective itself is meant to be observational, but you can get extra professional indemnity insurance to cover you so that you can be hands-on as you would be as a student midwife working in the UK. So obviously you are still a student and you need to still be observed and have someone with you. But yeah, you can be hands-on rather than having to be strictly observational and just watching. So then a year later, on the 18th of August 2018, I left Heathrow Airport. My flight actually stopped in Dubai and then I changed planes and flew from Dubai to Dar es Salaam and I landed on the 19th of August. Work the World actually collect you at the airport and drive you to the house, and there actually were a few other people on the flight who were going to be at the house at the same time as me, so when we all put on our Work the World t-shirts, when we landed in Dar es Salaam, we kind of spotted each other. They give you the t-shirts so that the driver can identify you, but actually it meant that while we were waiting for passport control and things, we could start having a chat, which was nice. So this is the exciting point where I get to actually show you some photos. The first thing I'm going to show you is the house. We arrived at the house and the house itself has a main building and several kind of outbuilding cottagey huts that you stay in. You do share rooms, but they were really receptive to letting you share rooms if you knew anyone. Just completely by coincidence, myself and one of my good friends on the course had booked to be there, not on exactly the same dates, but we had an overlapping week, so they put us in the same room. As I mentioned, the house and kind of surrounding area is all gated and those gates are locked. There's 24-hour security guard, which I was really impressed with. Obviously you can still be independent and go out and do whatever you want, but it means that while you are on site, you are secure and safe, which is really important. There was a swimming pool and some outside space to be able to chill, because you do have some downtime, and so being able to chill by the pool was really lovely. There was a barbecue area with some outdoor seating, so one of the nights the chefs laid on a barbecue for us. The food is all provided as part of your package, so you have a cooked breakfast every morning, you have a cooked dinner every evening, and then for lunch you can help yourself to whatever's in the fridge. So you can make yourself a sandwich to take into the hospital, or you can eat leftovers or whatever is in the fridge if you are at the house. So on our first day, obviously I landed on the 19th at about lunchtime, got to the house early afternoon, and then we just kind of chilled for a bit, unpacked, got sorted, and then it was dinner and kind of getting prepped for the next day. The first full day that I was in Dar es Salaam, we got up quite early and were shown by one of the organisers out there. She took us on it's like a bus, but it's not like any bus you've ever been on. I can't remember what it's called, but it was a very unique experience. And basically she took us on this bus to show us a route to the hospital. She showed us around the hospital, introduced us to the teams that we were going to be working with for the next 2 weeks, and then we had a tuk-tuk ride to a restaurant for lunch. The reason that they took us on the bus and on the tuk-tuks was to show us different ways of getting to the hospital, because you do have to use local transport to get to the hospital, at least in Dar es Salaam for where they have you placed for midwifery. It is too far to walk, and actually I'm not sure it'd be very safe to walk, but there's so much local transport that you can use, and they actually have Uber out there, which we used quite a few times, and it's very cheap. So we had lunch at a local restaurant, trying out some local food, which was really nice, and then headed back to the house for the late stage of the afternoon, had a bit of a chill by the pool, and then had some dinner and got ready for our first day in the hospital. So the hospital itself, I worked predominantly on the labour ward. There was an antenatal ward literally through a door, and actually I say antenatal, but it's predominantly early labour, and when I say early labour I actually mean anything up to being fully dilated, because out there you don't actually go onto labour ward until you are fully dilated. So that was very different. There was a neonatal unit, but not anything like the neonatal units that we have in the UK. And when I visited it, I found that quite difficult, because that complete lack of resources, it must cost lives. There are babies that, if they were born in the UK, would survive, that out there simply wouldn't. It's a matter of life and death, and that I found quite difficult. The hospital itself is a huge hospital. It covers a massive, massive area, has loads of different departments. It's one of the biggest hospitals in the area. People walk for hours to get to the hospital, so it was quite humbling to know that one of the biggest hospitals in the region had so few resources. So my first week in the hospital was a bit of a kind of getting my feet on the ground situation. I experienced a huge amount. It amazed me how busy it was, how many babies were being born. The difference in attitude towards the women was huge. These women weren't allowed to make noise in labour. There wasn't that connection between the midwife and the woman as you get in the UK. I got the opportunity to be the receiving midwife in theatre, so there was a C-section for an obstructed labour, and I was the midwife to receive the baby. And that baby actually needed a little bit of help at birth, just to stimulate its breathing, and the baby responded really, really well and was absolutely fine. So that was a really valuable experience for me, and just seeing how the operating theatre was compared to the operating theatres that we're used to in the UK. I also, in that first week, got to witness 2 breech births, which again you don't really get to see in the UK very often. So the first was a footling breech, so where the foot is coming first, the foot is the presenting part. That in the UK you would have a C-section for. It's not considered a very safe mode of birth, and actually it wasn't a very pleasant birth to witness, and it was quite rough on the baby and the mum. The second breech birth that I witnessed was amazing. The lady we knew was fully dilated. We knew that the baby was breech, and I said to one of the other midwives, I've never done this. I've learned breech birth at university, but I've never seen one. I've never caught a breech baby. I haven't done it. And she said, how do you do it in the UK? And I said, well, we get taught to be hands off the breech. And so she said, okay, we'll do it the UK way. And this woman was remarkable. She just did it. She pushed this baby out, and it was absolutely beautiful, textbook breech birth. Mum and baby were both absolutely fine. And it's very normal out there. Breech birth is very normal because they see them all the time. Whereas in the UK, I think a breech birth tends to, the majority of the time, go to theatre for a C-section, so we don't see them. But actually, this was just so, not easy, because no birth is easy, but it felt so natural and so normal, regardless of the fact that the baby was the other way up. It felt really natural and like it should be something that we do. It actually, that experience of witnessing that perfect breech birth inspired me to write my dissertation on vaginal breech birth and going into all the different studies and things. So that was a really valuable learning experience and absolutely amazing to witness. So it's not all hard work. We also, as a group, organised a day trip out to an island. So we had a little boat trip, went out to this beautiful, completely idyllic island and just spent the day lying on the beach, and we had lunch at this little restaurant, and I remember we found a monitor lizard out the back of the restaurant just chilling. The weekends you aren't expected to work, so you work 5 days a week and then you do something on the weekend. So you can organise something yourself, or there are a few add-ons that you can add on to your experience when you book. So I did that. I was out there for 2 weeks. So my middle weekend, I went on safari, and that was organised completely by Work the World, and it was amazing. It was just brilliant. It was really, really well organised. So again, it included all the food, and it included the game drives, and it really was fantastic. We saw so much. I'm going to include all these photos over while I'm speaking, but it was just brilliant. We had some really lovely accommodation. There was individual huts that you just shared with one other person that was also on this elective placement. We went on long game drives during the day and then sat by the campfire at night. It was really, really lovely, and it made it feel like a holiday for a couple of days before we went back to the hospital and to working hard again. So I really enjoyed that, and that was a really good add-on, and actually it wasn't very expensive compared to what you would pay for a safari holiday. Having it as an add-on was not very expensive at all. And then after that safari weekend, we went back to the house, and it was back for the second week. And the second week for me was very, very full on. I think the teams get to know you, get to know that you vaguely know what you're doing, get to know the fact that you are nearly in your third year, or I was nearly in my third year, and expect a lot more of you. And so the second week was really full on. I'm really glad that I had that extra insurance so that I could be hands-on. It was a huge, huge learning opportunity. As I said, I was nearly a third year student at that point. It was my last 3 weeks of second year. And they knew that. So they did chuck me in there and make me do it. There are so many babies born on that unit every day that I actually caught 10 babies in 5 days, which, as a student midwife, if there's any student midwives watching this, you will know that that is not what happens in the UK. It was a really valuable learning experience. I think because second year on my course focused a lot on educating you to deal with emergencies, it was quite nice to take me back to normal birth and the fact that birth is so completely natural and it just happens. That was really useful, just to be put in that situation where there were lots of babies being born and I was going in and catching these babies. We also got quite a lot of opportunity to explore the local area, so going to local markets where they were selling paintings and clothes. I actually bought a beautiful painting which I'm yet to put in a frame, but once we move house it will be going up on the walls. It's just beautiful. We had dinner out at a restaurant one night, which was nice, and actually really, really good food on the waterfront, so I will insert a couple of pictures here. And then on our last morning before we flew out, there was a bunch of us all leaving on the same day. So we got up really, really early and walked down to the beach, which is about a 10-minute walk from the house, and watched the sunrise on the beach, and then went out for brunch, which was a really nice way of ending the trip because we'd all become quite close. The experience as a whole, I think, gave me a huge amount of respect for midwifery as a skill. just being a midwife without the technology, the resources, the gadgets that we have in the UK really emphasised to me the skill involved in being a midwife. It obviously emphasised to me that we are really, really lucky in the UK having the resources that we have. We're very lucky in that we can go into hospital and go into labour with a reasonable amount of confidence that everything will be fine. Whereas out there, with the lack of resources, the women don't seem to have that expectation. They're hopeful, but without those resources, the outcomes really are completely different. Things that happen incredibly rarely in the UK happen more often. They still don't happen regularly, but they happen more often out there, and it's because of the lack of resources. These people are remarkable, and they're so grateful for the care that they receive, and the gratitude is overwhelming. And actually the care that they get is very basic, but the gratitude that you receive for giving such basic care is remarkable. But I think it's emphasised to me how lucky we are in the UK to have all the resources that we have. I also met some amazing people, both the people on their elective placements, but also the people who work in the hospital, working in those environments where it's so busy, and without the resources that we have, these people give so much of themselves and work so hard, and it was just so wonderful to meet these people who are so positive and so resilient. It was really inspiring. I think it also just reinforced to me that birth, although there can be complications, birth is a natural, normal thing, and it's something that people do every single day, including things like that breech birth, which really, really inspired me and opened my eyes, and just, it was an experience I will never forget. I had the most amazing time out there. I learnt so much, and honestly, if they asked me to, I would go back there in a heartbeat. I had just the best time. And yes, it is a completely different environment, and yes, there are days that are really sad and really difficult, but the overwhelming feeling was that of positivity and determination, and that is just so inspiring. I would do it again in a heartbeat, I really would. So that's it really. I hope you've enjoyed seeing a few of my photos and hearing a bit about my experience. If you are thinking of doing an international elective placement, I would say just do it. Honestly, I had the best time. I hope that's been interesting. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and do click subscribe as well so you don't miss any more videos. I have another video coming out next Thursday, and I also have a bonus video coming out I think on Sunday, which is something I'm really excited about. It's not midwifery related at all. I really, really hope you enjoy it.
I was never the one to write up a song for just anyone. I was always the one